An announcement by the province last month that will bring a total of 54 new long-term care beds to the Northwest is being welcomed by healthcare and municipal leaders in Marathon. The town's share of 14 new beds are expected to free up space in the hospital and allow older residents who have had to leave their community the chance to come home. Adam Riley has the details.
Come spring or summer of 2024, 14 residents from the Marathon area will have access to new long-term care beds, following an announcement last month by Ontario Long-Term Care Minister Paul Calandra. It comes at a time where the Wilson Memorial Hospital, where the new wing will be built to accommodate those beds, currently uses its chronic care wing to act as what North of Superior Healthcare Group CEO Adam Brown calls quasi-long-term care beds. He says the new beds will allow a shift and give them some breathing room on the capacity front, noting back to a similar situation when Wilkes Terrace in Terrace Bay was built.
At the time, the McCausland Hospital was overrun with occupancy. It was running 120% occupancy for several years prior to opening Wilkes Terrace. And almost immediately we filled up Wilkes Terrace to 22 beds in Terrace Bay. And the chronic wing sat relatively empty for a number of years. So it's now taken, that's 11 years since we opened. It's taken now 11 years until that chronic wing is kind of filled back up to capacity.
Brown notes the design features a 7,000 square foot addition to the east end of the hospital, and with it being incorporated into the hospital itself, it won't require a kitchen or mechanical rooms. Acting Mayor Greg Valance says this project is great news for Marathon.
We're looking really forward to kind of rounding out our healthcare system here in the community, and having these long-term care beds will allow us that opportunity. And it's going to allow us the opportunity to maintain that aging demographic within the community and keeping those individuals as they access healthcare services with their family.
Valance adds there will also be an economic spin-off from the jobs created both in the construction and the operation of the long-term care wing. Other communities in the region include Atikokan and Manitouwadge, who are getting 22 and 18 long-term care beds respectively. While some might think of those numbers as unusual, Brown says they work very well with the new requirement set by the province.
To have 4 hours per resident per day of care, so that's some new legislation that was recently introduced, and that 14 beds fits nicely into 4-hour shift patterns. 16 wouldn't work as well, 12 wouldn't work as well, so you'd have to go from 14 perhaps up to 18 and perhaps up to 22 to make it work.
Once the design and engineering is complete, shovels are expected to be in the ground spring of 2023. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Later this month, the largest infrastructure project the North Shore region has seen in decades will be completed. And with that, the work camps for the EastWest Tie will begin to shut down. The project, valued at $777 million, is a 230 kilovolt transmission line that runs from Shunya to Wawa. It provided an economic boost for many of the communities along the North Shore over the past 3 years. Marathon acted as a hub community which included supplies, housing, and renting of space, such as a former pulp mill property for laydown yard and a former schoolyard used for the Vallard work camp. Marathon's acting mayor, Greg Valance, says considering the economic hardships faced during the pandemic, the project couldn't have come at a better time.
We're extremely fortunate for what Vallard brought and Nextbridge brought to the community as a corporate citizen, really. We were extremely fortunate to have them, especially within that crucial time of it being the pandemic. The spin-off on, again, the economics of employment and what they brought to the retail sector and money into those organizations throughout the pandemic, we've been extremely fortunate.
The EastWest Tie is expected to be completed in the coming weeks and then electrified on March 31st. Last month, the WSIB announced a long-awaited policy change for mine workers who were exposed to Mcintyre Powder many decades ago. They will now be automatically approved for claims relating to Parkinson's disease. But the activists and retired miners here in the Northwest who have been fighting for the change say they aren't done yet. Lee Noonan has the details.
The use of aluminum powder, called Mcintyre Powder, was declared dangerous in 1979, but the first clues that the product might be harming miners came much earlier, only a few years after it was first introduced in the early 1940s as a treatment to protect against silicosis. The activists behind the Mcintyre Powder project are now calling on the Government of Ontario to formally apologize. Paul Filto has been a lifelong advocate for miners' rights. His father was exposed to Mcintyre powder when he returned to the mines after serving in World War II. His father was denied workman's compensation even though his health had started to decline when he was still in his 40s.
I started noticing the shaking going on and started getting forgetful. Things like he liked to photograph things and he had difficulty holding the camera. And coordination, we got our first car in 1954. It wasn't too long after I began to notice, like I was, I'm a little kid at this time, but I see that he's having difficulty braking, coordinating the driving with the braking, which is kind of scary,
Hugh Carlson's WSIB claim was also denied. Despite the opinions of his doctors, his sarcoidosis isn't recognized as related to the Mcintyre powder he was exposed to working in Red Lake area gold mines as a young man.
And they were well-meaning when they thought, well, we'll coat their lungs with aluminum and it'll protect them from the silica dust and hence protect them from silicosis. And so everybody sat in there and they sprayed aluminum dust in the air. You can smell the something foul in the air. Like it was just sort of something that everybody accepted.
Finn Anderson retired as a driller many years ago, but he learned only last week that his Parkinson's may have been caused by his career in the mines.
I knew about it when they were doing it. Well, when I found out that it had caused Parkinson's, that's got me concerned because I've had that for 22 years now.
I guess the environmental and health effects of working underground, what are they? And does the Workmen's Compensation Board recognize them?
Ultimately, everyone we spoke to for this story was more concerned for future miners than for themselves. They hope to see changes to the WSIB that will put the well-being of miners before the agency's bottom line. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Coming up after the break, a local sled dog racer takes top prize at a national level race.